Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Notes and Quotes podcast. It is a joy to have you guys here. As always, I'm so glad you're back for another Tuesday. Or if this is your first episode, like I said just now, welcome to the community. I'm really glad you're here. If you want, you can do us a favor and engage with us on our socials. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. We also have a listener survey that really helps us shape the best possible podcast for you. It super helps me when you fill that out. It takes less than a minute. But anyway, I'm being boring, so let me jump into the content for today. I have always found so much power in youth activism. And youth activism is very unique from just general activism. Youth have a certain fire, a certain power, a certain passion about them. And I feel like the world on just climate issues, social issues, whatever it is, has been really dominated by young people who are fighting for change, who are fighting for their own futures. And so today, I am bringing on a passionate climate youth activist. Her name is Stephania Añazco. She is an oceanographic engineer and youth climate leader from Ecuador. She coordinates the Mi Costa project, empowering coastal communities through ocean literacy and citizen science. Throughout her life, she has advocated for sustainable development, equity, and resilience. Stephania has represented youth at international forums like the International Seabed Authority and contributes to initiatives on energy transition, climate adaptation, and marine conservation. With experience in community projects, standards, and environmental policy, she is committed to amplifying local voices and driving inclusive solutions to climate and ocean challenges. You guys, I'm doing it a bit unorthodox today. I'm filming the introduction after I actually did the conversation with Steph. Just to let you know, this is such a beautiful conversation. Steph really shares her full-on inspirations for what she does, and you can hear her cause and her why and her passion for what she does and what she fights for. And it's not just like it's not at all a self-centered approach at all, because there's a lot of people who do performative activism. When you listen to Steph, you really get reminded of why young people are doing what they're doing. And I just had such a joy talking to her. And I promise you, when you listen to her, you will at least take away, and I usually say one thing, but you will at least take away two things that inspire you and make you want to look at your life and the way that you engage with the world a little bit differently. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to run straight into the conversation with Steph. Let's go. Let's talk to Steph. You won't regret it. Hi, Steph. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, Naomi. This is great. Thank you very much for the invitation to the podcast. I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, no worries at all. It's great to have you. So, your quote for today, why have you chosen this quote? Can you share your quote with the audience and just let them know your thinking behind it?
Yeah, of course. So the quote I choose is "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I picked up this phrase because a long time ago it was Marco Antonio Regil. I don't know if you maybe have heard about him.
Oh, I haven't
So
actually.
yeah, and he's a Mexican guy and he talks about many topics. And I was watching this episode and he was talking that when you see a problem, around you, you are responsible for the solution, right? Because if you see a problem around you, you are the one who should be concerned about it, and you should try to act toward working on that problem. So I was like, I should be the change that I want to see around me, like from climate action, from feminism, from sustainability, from ocean protection. And so it started. And then later on, I discovered that this very popular quote comes from Mahatma Gandhi, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. But yeah, it's a quote that definitely has accompanied me for a very few years now. I just love it, and I keep it very present, very with me, like close to my heart, because it inspires me to keep moving, to keep actioning for communities, coastal communities mainly. It's my main focus, and yeah, that's the story behind the quote.
Oh, that's really beautiful. I love the story behind that because it really shows how people's words can inspire action in other people. Because that quote that you said, the story that you said, rather, from the Mexican guy that you were talking about, the motivational speaker, and how he just has like shaped you into the youth activist that you are today. And how old are you, Steph?
I am 24 years, and in August I'll be 25.
Oh, great. Oh, August. I'm an August born as well. So that's awesome
Oh,
birthday.
you're Leo.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
so
so
you're quite young then. You're still quite young. And I feel like what I've seen in the past maybe decade is that the majority of world activists nowadays are very much dominated by young people. And young people just have this real fire for exactly what you just said, being the change that they want to see in the world. And I've heard so many people say, different reasons of why they've become an activist and everything. People love to interview a young activist. Like, it's kind of the age of just getting a poster Greta Thunberg and just wanting to like use them as this motivational person. But why do you think the world is dominated by young activists right now? I've had my own journey with anxiety and other mental health struggles, and one of the things that did help was therapy. Even though I didn't go consistently, those few sessions definitely made a big difference. To be honest, the first time that I went, I had no idea what to expect. I was definitely nervous sitting across from a total stranger who I was supposed to open up to about a bunch of personal stuff. There were a lot of awkward silences, and I left feeling like maybe therapy just wasn't for me. What I didn't know then was finding the right therapist can take time, and on top of that, it can even be really hard to get an appointment in the first place. That's why I'm genuinely excited that BetterHelp is the paid partner of this episode. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier. It's an online platform where you can match with a credentialed therapist based on your needs and talk to them in a way that works best for you, whether that's video, phone, or even text. There's also a journaling feature inside the platform if writing things down helps you process. And there's daily group sessions on a variety of topics so you don't have to go it alone if you don't want to. The best part is if your first therapist doesn't feel like the right fit, switching is super easy so you can find someone you truly connect with. BetterHelp carefully makes sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 5.5-star rating on Trustpilot, it's a platform you can trust. If you're struggling and think you'd benefit from a therapy session, go to betterhelp.com/notes and quotes or choose Notes and Quotes podcast during your sign up and get 10% off your first month of therapy. This could be something that really helps you. Now, back to the episode.
um that's a very wide question because there are so many things we can talk about that. But I personally think that when you talk about adult activists, they're mainly scientists or people who have suffered the consequences of climate change but when we talk about youth activists, we are talking about people who is receiving a world full of issues, full of challenges, and receiving this world from the hands of a generation that is not aware of the impact they're making on our planet. And as we're these people who are receiving this world, we are concerned about our future. We are concerned about what's going to happen for us. Are we going to have enough food for everyone? Are we going to have decent jobs? Are we going to have the opportunity to dream about having an enterprise, or are we going to be stuck in the middle of a war, in the middle of of a flooded area, or and this is, I think personally, this is the main reason why you see so many young, especially climate activists, because yeah, we are concerned, and this is also one of the reasons why we have as young people climate anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is like the feeling of frustration of seeing a generation behind us that may receive the world even worse than us, right? I don't plan actually to have kids, but I think about the future generations, because in the year we are 2025, we are already seeing issues or challenges related to water scarcity, and this is huge. I mean, this is huge. And as a young generation, is received in the world, we want to make a change. We want to make this generation who is giving us the planet in poor conditions, let's say, we want to make them aware that they are in the power, they have the power in their hands to make the changes we need before it's too late. And yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons. And just to give you an example, for example, yesterday it was my mom's birthday, and we were having a dinner at my grandma's home. And my family here, I mean my parents, my siblings here at home, we know that I am the green sheep of the house. And we don't use single use plastics, dishes. We don't use that because I offer myself, even though I don't like to do the dishes, I offer myself to do the dishes. So we can use, like the normal dishes we have at home for every day. But yesterday we were at my grandma's home, and they opted for using single use plastics. And I was
Hmm.
like, Mom, can we use, like, the normal dishes they use here every day? And she was like, no, girl, we're not at home. We don't want to give, to make them feel uncomfortable. And my father
Hmm.
was like, you feel like you're the only one who will change the world. And I was like, yeah, I would give my life, to do it. But parents, even my parents, especially my father, he is like very like difficult to get. And sometimes I feel, like this frustration, because I feel like if I can't even convince my father that using
Hmm.
single use plastics is bad for the planet, bad for us, how am I going to convince, the communities or other people that single use plastics are not good for us, neither for the planet? And this is the frustration I have. And I think I've talked to many other young activists, and they have something like similar, because starting at home with our people, sometimes it's really hard. And imagine getting to politicians, getting to communities who have done, the things as it used to be, and they want to keep it going that way. It's really hard. But yeah,
Yeah.
we have this generation that we're trying our best to change that, to make
Yeah.
even a little change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would have to say that this generation really has done an incredible job thus far because, like you said, I when I was doing my little stint in the climate space, I think that it is a very exhausting and frustrating place to be in, especially because, like you said, it's so hard to get through to people. And I always say, like, start with whatever you're starting with, start with what you have already, like start with your own resources and everything. So when you're trying to raise awareness and when you're trying to like create change, start creating change at home, which is what you are doing and what other activists are trying to do. But even then it's so difficult, and
It
sometimes
is.
you can't like convince the people that are closest to you, and then you're wondering, like, exactly what you said, how are you going to convince millions of other people? But I think the way that I've come to think about it is more so I don't need to convince everyone, I just need to convince like one person, and that will
Yeah,
I've created change, I've done something, and it
definitely.
might seem small and it might seem minuscule, but it is it is worth the effort, because if you try to, I find what happens with a lot of young activists is that we work so hard to do and to fight for our future, right? For all of the reasons that you just said, because we've inherited something that we have not actually contributed to this situation, this climate crisis. And we want to have a future and we want our potential kids to have a future, but it's so difficult. And when you get faced with all of the difficulties of raising awareness and fighting for change, a lot of young people tend to get very burnt out because they really give it their all, and then they leave and they stop fighting and they become either climate anxious or very apathetic to the issues, and they just don't care anymore because it's like, I'm not creating any change. But I think it's really important for young activists to try and take it in small bites and try and just change at least one person today or like another person tomorrow or something, and not try and do it all because it gets really, really overwhelming. But I do find it interesting when I meet young people who have been really, really dedicating their lives to activism. And I wonder, like, for you, would you say that you were raised to be very knowledgeable or like interested in political and social issues, or was it something that kind of inspired you in your life along the way that took you down that path?
Well, if you allow me to, you said something really important. If
Mhm.
you get to change one person, you're making, a meaningful impact. And that
Yeah.
really, I connected with that because last year or the last 2 years, I was working on a project with coastal communities from an island, from Puna Island, actually in the Gulf of Guayaquil here in Ecuador. And we had some workshops related to mangrove conservation, but also solid waste management because
Mhm.
this island, is like below the Gulf. And with every tidal change, all of the trash, let's say, from the Gulf comes down to the island. So it doesn't matter how many, cleanup activities you do, you're always going to have trash in this island as long as the Gulf continues, to throw their inorganic or organic waste into the river or
Yeah.
yeah, the ocean. So we had, like many workshops with these communities, for communities actually, and we shared with them, and we allied with another organization, and we shared with them about composting. And this was, like a great idea because they had many organic waste, and they were also disposing it to the river, right, to the
Mhm.
closest water body they had. And can you guess how many people have continued composting till today?
I want to be hopeful and say like 100, maybe.
No, only one person, and that
Oh.
person till, yeah, like tomorrow maybe, he will send me like the report of how many kilograms of organic waste he
Oh.
composted. Like every week he is, hey, good morning, I want to send my report today. I composted during this week like 20 kilograms of organic waste because he's a single person,
Mhm.
and he's an adult. Actually, he's like over 50, I think. And when I remember him, it's like I get, like this hopeful, and that warms my heart, and to
Mhm.
keep going. So yeah. So now regarding question, I could say that somehow I was raised in a community where being helpful, being supportive is like the common, because
Mhm.
when here in Marcabeli, here is my town, when someone, is facing a health issue, or they had a car accident or something, or is someone from a limited economical condition, then it's like someone, or there is a group of people who are collecting money from everyone, or they organize, like a community meal, and they sell, food, or they have raffles. And yeah, it's like this sense of community, of
Yeah.
being helpful, being supportive. And I was remembering that when I was like 14, 15, I used also to help in the livestock fair, like preparing food. Can you imagine, like
Mhm.
a little girl of 13? I see my nieces of 13, 14 doing that, and I can picture them doing that. But I was doing that at that age. I was, with the ladies helping in the kitchen. And I remember that they admire that I was that young, and helping so much, because it was not only the kitchen, it was, helping with selling the food, with organizing something. I've grown with this sense of helping, of contributing, from what I am, what I do, and where I am.
Yeah.
And And it's funny because I used to say that 4 or 5 years ago, when I discovered that I could access to scholarships to do my masters, I realized that I should, get more involved in things to improve my CV, right?
Yeah.
But then I realized that it's something that I've been always with, like this sense of contributing to my community, and then of course developing projects, working with other communities or with people I've never met. Because here, of course, I'm familiar with the people I contribute to, but as I told you, I went to Puna, I've gone to other provinces of Ecuador to work with people, and I feel like every experience I have with communities, every experience I have with people, it keeps this spark of inspiration to keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, that is actually such a gorgeous story, and like it really brings to light the fact that I think one of the things that when I was in the healthy and environmentally friendly youth campaign, the Hey campaign, which you're also in, um when I was there, one of the things that they really kind of teach you is that it starts from young, you know, that community spirit, that communal spirit, that giving back and caring about your surroundings. The education on that from a young age is so important because it shapes who you are as an adult and how you interact with others and how you interact with the rest of the world. And that's so evident with you. And I feel like every single time that I've heard an activist kind of tell me why they do what they do, beyond the fact that they're doing it for the greater good and for their future and for the people who are really suffering, the reason that they started in the first place is because of things that they learned from their childhood, because of looking
True.
at others in their community and the way that they interact with them and how important what was prioritized is important. And I really find a lot of beauty in that. And the fact that because we talked just now about how difficult it can be to keep going in such a most of the time very toxic space with a lot of negative news and a lot of negativity just spurring around, the things that keep you going, that's what I always wonder about. And you've just like told me about that. What keeps you going is mainly the community and understanding that it's not just you alone fighting this fight, really, and it's not just you alone that cares about your future and the future of your community and the communities that very oftentimes get overlooked. It's
Yeah.
also the fact that, you know, there are other activists out there that care as much as you do.
You're saying something key, because when I back to 2022, I had the great opportunity, and at that time I wasn't that present in social media or that involved with NGOs.
Hmm.
But I don't know, I believe in God, and I truly believe that that was something given by him. And I got the incredible opportunity of get a scholarship to attend the Global Conference of Youth in
Oh,
Egypt.
wow. Oh, that's
That
incredible. I
was,
remember when that happened.
yeah, and that was, like that was the first time I traveled alone, and it was the very first time I traveled, like abroad.
Mhm.
And it was, like a whole new experience. And I truly believe that that special international event changed my life, because I connected with so many young people who were doing as much as they could in their communities, in their countries. And I truly believe in the power of these international conferences, because
Mhm.
people get to know that they're not alone in this.
Yeah.
As you know, as I still have this words of my father in my mind, that I pretend to change the world alone, but I'm not alone. There are hundreds, I dare to say millions of young people who are doing as much as they can to change the world.
Mhm. I love the way you explained that. I thought that was actually really, really, really powerful, and I hope that people listen to that as well because one of the conversations that kind of goes around in the media, especially around the time of these international conferences, is the supposed ineffectiveness of them because, for example, with the conference of the parties, the COPs, we're coming on to what, our 30th COP now, and they've been going for a really long time, and a lot of the same conversations are happening. And yeah, I do see the merit in the fact that, you know, they're not as effective as they should be,
Yeah,
but I really love the positive spin that you just gave on that, that the conferences do actually have a positive impact for a lot of people, not only in terms of just representing their own countries, but
hmm,
also one giving young people and young activists who tend to dominate these spaces now in these recent years a chance to reignite their fire for change because like I said multiple times, it's a very exhausting space to be in, and you
it
can
is.
literally see that you're not alone and get help from other people and connect with other people, because I think connection is so important when you're trying
It
to make
is.
change as well. So I really, really love that positive spin. The one thing that might be a bit more of a negative is that I've been seeing a lot, especially with, you know, activists who are being a bit more radical in the sense that they're like really going out there and disrupting. People have now kind of turned away from activists, specifically climate activists as well. They've kind of come to the idea of like shaming them and getting annoyed by their presence. Why why do you think that is?
That makes me laugh because I'm not I'm also thinking about my family because sometimes when we have like a barbecue like yesterday, they feel like worried because like, oh Steffi doesn't like the single use plastic, so oh, what should we do? Like they're worried. And but it's like I try to don't feel anxious, and I try to don't argue. For example, my father said what he said yesterday, and I was like, okay, you want to use them, okay, but I'll use the reusable dishes you have here, and I'll wash them, and okay. But I think, and I'll give an example. My just to be clear, I don't have anything against Christian people. My
Mhm,
boyfriend actually he's Christian, and somehow I feel also connected with the religion. But some Christian people, especially here in Ecuador, I don't know in other countries, but here in Ecuador, sometimes I remember I used to see them on the parks and like shouting and screaming, and something like people was like afraid, like like a feeling of rejection, like what is this? I mean, and I think about in the same way of climate activists, and not only climate activists but also the activists for women, right? And I try to understand their point. When you reach that point where you feel that level of connection with something, of purpose with something, you try to feel free and express it, like freely.
mhm,
That's my point of view. But yeah, of course, this for the people who just at the first thought they think they're radical, they're like extreme, they may feel like a rejection feeling. But the point is that not every one of us is that way.
yeah,
Every one of us is different. We all have perspectives. We have a background that may tell us when something is radical, when something is normal. We all have
mhm,
different standards. I think that, especially relating to climate change, some people may be guided by misinformation and political polarization, I would say, because
mhm,
there is a lot of misinformation going on social media, and they may feel like what we're doing has no point, or we're exaggerating or something. And I would just like to take the space to tell people that just give us a chance, give us a chance to explain what we want to say, and be patient. I mean, we are people, we all have different realities, we have different surroundings, and different issues as well. We are a whole world.
mhm.
And when you see some people fighting for something, they have a story, and let's hear that story before we judge them.
I That last line was like a full reshape in my mind. Because just like you said, everyone, because of their upbringing, because of their background, because of their all unique lives, will perceive things in very different ways. So someone might look at somebody who's, I don't know, holding up traffic with a protest and think that they're being radical, they're being disruptive, they're being annoying. But if they care that much, isn't that worth listening to them? Because they've got something to say, they've got a story to say. Shouldn't you be
Of
interested
course.
in why they care? Yeah, let them be heard. Shouldn't they get a chance to actually be heard? And that's a really powerful way of reshaping that. And I think that that was, yeah, very, very, very valuable. What do you think is like the main struggle that young people are facing today in the midst of everything that kind of shapes our lives right now? Because it's obviously a very, very turbulent time, you know, climate wise, politically, socially, everything. It's just like a very turbulent time for the entire globe. What do you think for this generation are the main things that are our biggest struggles?
We have so many, but I think the one struggle that functions like the umbrella for everything is
Hmm.
uncertainty about the future. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
We are
Yeah.
not sure about anything. I'm even not sure if I'm going, for example, to finish my master's because of everything that's going on in the Middle East. I'm not even sure if I'm going to get a job, get a family. I mentioned that I'm not even sure if I'll ever have kids because I'm afraid of that in the first place. But I also am afraid of the life they're going to have. I'm not sure if my town will have enough water for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're going to get flooded as we as we were last April. We had 4 floods in 1 month,
Oh my gosh.
and this has never happened before. I mean, something similar happened, I think, one time when we had an El Nino event between 1997, 1998. But at that time, we had an El Nino event, which means that the ocean gets so warm that you have, like a consequence, heavy rains on land. But
Yeah.
this year, we didn't have anything of that. We had actually like the variation of La Nina, sorry, which means La Nina Modoki. That's the name of the event, and we were supposed to have rain, but
Hmm.
not that much as we had here, and it really worries me to think about the fact that this kind of events will become more frequent and more extreme as well because of
Hmm.
climate change. And yeah, it's like it's the uncertainty about the future. It's this frustration, I think most of young people have about not being aware of not being sure, sorry, for what's coming. And
Yeah.
another issue I could mention is mental health, and I think this is related mainly about the uncertainty about the future, but also related to all of the problems we're currently facing. Wars, climate change, social media. Also, I've seen that impact in my nieces. It's a powerful tool, I would say, for activists to be heard in something, but
Hmm.
it's also like a double face coin
Yeah.
because on one side you have like this positive impact you can have when using to speak about a social issue, but there's also like the other side that you may get stuck on social media scrolling for hours, and that affects your mental health. And you if and even you were mentioning, if you see so many bad news about climate, about deep sea mining, that's something that really affects me. And then you start to have mental health issues as well. That
Mm.
those are, I could believe, that are the main struggles we're facing as youth currently.
Yeah. No, I think When I think about it, when I listen to your explanation, I think that you really are spot on. And thank you for sharing that with me because honestly, it really is a massively terrifying future. I mean, there's uncertainty all around, but there's a unique level of uncertainty for people in this generation when everything you said, like we don't know what even the next year or the next month is going to look like, especially for small island states or especially for countries that are terribly overlooked and have limited resources to deal with the natural disasters that are increasing all the time. And then, you know, just globally, the heat waves, the floods, the drought, the hurricanes, the tsunami, all of these things, all of these natural disasters that are happening globally, and it just creates an intense level of uncertainty for the future for young people. And it really amazes me that our generation really has such a fire to not only change that and defy what some people might say is like the inevitable or whatever, but to actually just keep going and like vie together to create change is something that is I find extremely inspiring. And I think I see that within you as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting because
Mhm.
we all used to say, even at school, I think I learned about natural disasters, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
it's related to a natural phenomenon.
Yeah.
But do you think it would be a disaster if humans weren't on Earth?
No, it definitely has been made worse by humans, no doubt at all.
But I mean, what I mean with this question is that it is a disaster because it affects us.
Oh, right.
And it's a disaster also because we didn't prepare for that. Because you
Mm,
have natural events every time, like every year, and this change to not call it a natural disaster is like a call to action for authorities to because when you say a natural disaster is something like out of your hands, but
mm,
if you mention that it was a disaster because we didn't prepare on time, because we
yeah,
didn't collect the information we had to prepare to develop an early warning system for floods, if we didn't collect the data we needed to warn farmers that there was going to be like a drought or something, then
yeah,
it is not a natural disaster. It is us not preparing for what's coming. Because we have the
yeah.
technology, we can collect the information and we can prepare and adapt. And
Mm,
that's one of the things that I always try to share, because if we keep it calling a natural disaster, it's like, okay, this is out of our hands, and you can recall recently we had like the Texas flood, which
yeah.
was pretty worse. And but I was reading, I don't know if that's true, I'm sorry, but I read some reports that that mentioned that like just a few days or the day before the disaster, they had approved like a preparedness plan or something like that.
Hmm.
And also they were warned that they were building in a flood risk area.
Oh,
They could
wow.
have, built on a higher area where, the risk was lower,
Yeah.
but they preferred to build by the river. And that's one issue that happened here also, and unfortunately we lost one life.
Mm,
And yeah, it's about being aware that there are risks, that we should collect information, that we should prepare, that we should adapt, and that we should take decisions based on this information.
yeah. No, I think that that is such an interesting way of thinking about that. Thank you for sharing that because I think that reframe is so incredibly necessary because I remember when the whole trend of like climate change and like everyone focusing like when do you remember that trend when around 2019 or 2020 everyone started posting about climate change and then it kind of just fell off and now people are becoming a little bit
Hmm.
more
True.
apathetic towards it now. But when I was, following social media climate change trend season, I saw people reshaping it from calling it climate change to the climate crisis, and just to create that sense of urgency. And it was so incredibly necessary. And I really think reframes like that are so crucial, because these crises are not new. They're just worsening and they're becoming more frequent, but we've known about this
True.
for a long time.
Mhm.
And we need to have people have a bigger sense of urgency and take
Indeed.
action, and act like this is not something that's going to happen but is really happening right now. And when you reframe something like a natural disaster to just a disaster because there are things that could have been prevented, I think is such a smart way of doing that. And I love talking to activists, because every single time that I talk to one, I learn something new. And I've learned so much through this conversation as well.
Oh,
I mean,
thank
one of
you.
the things that I learned from like other conversations that I've held with me as well is the fact that, going back to, I guess, to the beginning things of what you said about how difficult it is to change some people's minds, even people that are close to you. I've found that one of the things that really helps is not talking about the same things over and over again in the way that it's like you're telling them about how terrible the crisis is and that kind of thing, but using it in a way that directly impacts their lives. So, for example, if this person is into sports, then letting them know how the climate crisis impacts sport. If this person is
Mhm.
into fashion, let them talk about fast fashion and talk about the impact of what that will have on their lives. I find that tailor making awareness and activism is really, really important, and reshaping like the way that you just said is really, really crucial. So thank you for sharing that. As we kind of come to a bit of a close, what do you think is one thing that you could leave with people who may have come to this episode wanting to learn more about activism, wanting to learn more about the youth perspective of people who are really doing things in this space? What do you think is something that you would want to leave with them?
Oh, first of all, thank you for listening to the end of this conversation. And there are so many ways that we can help, because activists are not fighting for a cause for themselves. They're
Mhm.
fighting for a cause for the common good. And
Yeah.
first of all, we should give them a chance to be heard. And that's one of the reasons also why, as an activist, I also fight for the inclusion of youth, of communities to be heard in the decision making tables, because
Mhm.
our perspectives are important, because as I mentioned before, it is the future we're going to receive, and it is the present we're already living, that which is not pretty good. There's I'm mostly sure there at least one activist for every town in the world. Get to know this person, learn about him, about her, and and try to be supportive. It could be, just like a social action for helping someone. It could be planting a tree. It could be improving our lifestyles by changing to more sustainable products or more sustainable services, and learn, discover, give you the chance to learn, be open to listening from both sides. Because when we understand things is when real change happens. When
Mm.
you understand that plastics are not only bad for the planet, for marine life, but bad for your health, then you just start making a change. So be open. Let's learn together. I'm still learning. We're always learning something new. Let's keep growing and fighting for a change that benefits the common good.
Wow. I really hope everyone took like at least a snippet away from that. That was just jam-packed with so much value. Thank you so much, Steph, for sitting
Thank
down and
you.
talking with me. This has been so, so great, and I really, really, really appreciate you coming onto the podcast.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you want to follow Steph a little bit more, Steph, where can people find you and your work? Where can they engage with you more?
Oh, I'm mostly present on Instagram. You can find me at Stephania or Ingeniera Oceano in Spanish. And you can also find me on LinkedIn as Stephania Añazco. I'll be happy to connect and collaborate with any project.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Steph. I will also link that information down in the show notes so you can access her very easily and learn more about the work that she's doing and learn more about what you can do as well in your own lives. And with that, that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want more of the Notes and Quotes podcast, you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. Video is exclusively on YouTube. So that's where you'd be seeing this conversation visually. And I will see you again next Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And that's it.